I've always had a dream to save everyone from their problems. I didn't care who they were or what they had done. I wanted them to stop suffering. I guess you could say this day they helped me. January 23rd, 2068, 2 days before my birthday. Hello, my name is Kizzy. Well, that's what everyone calls me. My real name is Caitlin, but everyone just calls me Kizzy. I'm 10 years old and I did something crazy. I'll start from the beginning. I woke up and I had some breakfast, Captain Crunch to be exact. Mom and Dad had been busy with bills and work, so I made them lunch and put it into the fridge. Then I was off to school. I usually took the bus, but I don't keep track of time and ended up riding my bike. I honestly didn't want to ride the bus, but I knew I would make Mom and Dad worry if I constantly rode my bike, and I didn't want to be a bother to them by asking for a ride. I hate riding the bus because of the students. They don't like me because of how smart I am. Well, that's what I guess anyways. I haven't told Mom or Dad because they have enough on their plate, so here I am. But even though I hate the bus, I have something to look forward to when I get to school. Mr. Plum. He's my teacher and friend, only friend. You see, Mr. Plum is strong and confident, and sometimes he kind of acts like a kid my age. But he's got a good heart. Every day he asks me if I'm ever going to do something about the kids who bully me. I always say no. You see, I would tell him those kids might be going through a hard time. If bullying me helps them, who am I to stop them? He would always shake his head and tell me, Kizzy, you are one of a kind, or something like that. He says I have a heart of gold. I asked him, if I had surgery to remove my heart and sell it, could I get more time with my parents? He would laugh and I wouldn't understand, so I'd just smile. Today, when I came to school, Mr. Plum sat next to me while I finished my project during recess. I wasn't a huge fan of recess because no one played with me and it was just more reason to bully me. So I stayed with Mr. Plum and learned. Mr. Plum didn't mind but encouraged me to make friends. I tried but I never could. At first recess we started on science. Science was my favorite because it was the subject I questioned most. But a few minutes through and we went on a lockdown. We were in the science room, but it had a room attached to it, so the class went in there. I had heard a few whispers that this was supposed to happen, so I thought nothing more of it as a drill. I should have known better. Mr. Plum was locking the door to the science room when we heard a thud. We all jumped. My mind began racing. I looked at the door and saw Mr. Plum frozen. He was going to come in, but the thud made him stop. We heard another thud and then an evil laugh. I got up and put my ear to the door. I suddenly heard a crash. I listened to the conversation as the strange voice said, Well, looks like someone wasn't fast enough. If I hadn't heard the door lock, I would have thought no one was in here. I heard Mr. Plum breathing heavily. I could feel the door shaking from what I assumed was him from terror. The strange voice spoke again. Oh, are you hiding kids? I really did hit the jackpot. I began to panic. I wasn't sure what that strange voice would do, but I reacted on my own panic. I opened the door and squeezed past Mr. Plum and stood in front of Mr. Plum with my arms spread out and I screamed, Don't hurt him. I couldn't see Mr. Plum's face, but I assumed he was surprised. I opened my eyes and saw a dark man with a scruffy face. He had something in his hands and was pointing at me. It was long and black, and it had a hole in it that was directly pointed between my eyes. I felt fear shoot through my body, but I stood my ground. What are you doing? I asked. The man stood for a moment and began to get nervous. Look, kid, I ain't here for games. He paused. Are you scared? I asked. The man looked at me with a strange face, almost like he couldn't understand his own feelings himself. I repeated again. Are you scared? This time, he became angry, and he told me, Look, kid, I'm not scared of nothing, no one or anything. I'm here to kill you kids and leave no one left. I stood with horror. I had never heard that word before. Kill. What did it mean? Did it mean to not live anymore? Maybe it meant something else. And then it hit me. I knew exactly what that word meant. I screamed out. nothing but horror and terror filling my body. If I were your family, would you still shoot me? If we were your kids, would you still kill us? My mind was racing. I wasn't exactly sure what I should do, but I knew I had to do something. And then something crossed my mind. What if I just let him kill us? What if I take Mr. Plum now and run away? We could be happy forever. Him, my mom, and Dad, who I really have no memory of. What if I just let him kill the kids? I shook my head. The man became alarmed. Hey, I ain't doing no funny business, he said. I became surprised and apologized. I'm sorry, I had a thought. He looked at me. What do you mean you had a thought? Ain't you trying to get out of this? There ain't no way you coming out alive. I looked at him, and tears began to stroll down my face. I don't plan to live, but I do ask something in regards. He looked at me funny. I said, I ask that you spare Mr. Plum and the others. He stared at me. I spoke again. I've been bullied by the entire class for the entire time I've been in school. It's been 5 years now. Every day, one after the other, never ends. But with all my heart, I know that I want them to live. And if that means giving up my life for them to live, I guess that's what I have to do. The man stood there silent. The shaking had stopped from his hands. He looked at me dead in the eyes. He asked me, Who are you exactly? I answered, I'm a normal 10-year-old girl. My name is Caitlin. I go by Kizzy. I have no friends besides Mr. Plum. My favorite subject is science. I don't really have a favorite color because I enjoy them all. I'm no one special, but I know deep down inside saving others is what I want to do, even if that means sacrificing myself, even if those people are mean, even in the end, I don't deserve it. He stared at me, and he says, You're one brave kid, I'll give you that. But I ain't letting any of you come out alive. We began to hear voices in the hallway. We heard almost like key sounds. They were approaching quickly. The man panicked. He pointed his weapon-like thing at me, and I braced for it, spreading my arms out. I turned back to Mr. Plum quickly and I said, Do me a favor. Live on. Boom. That's all I remember. Drifting away. My body feeling cold. My vision blurry. Pain shooting through my body. I didn't know how to explain it. I don't know if I wanted to explain it. I remember seeing one last memory. It was me and my family. We were all at the park. I had been on the slings and I had scraped my knee. Father and Mother had begun to get worried about me. I told them I was fine and I'd be okay. It was just a little scratch. I told them I was a tough girl and I could handle it. Then Mr. Plum came by. We talked for a little bit and he asked me about the scrape on my knee. I told him I had just fallen and it was nothing special. He looked at me and smiled. and he said, "You must be one tough cookie to brush that off." That's the end. That's all I remember.